What if men stopped working for 30 days? It sounds like a wild hypothetical, but let's walk through what that world would actually look like. You don't get productivity spikes, you get chaos, burning buildings, empty shells, planes grounded, whole cities grinding to a halt. And hey, for those of you who stick around to the end, I've got a little farm update for you. Some new changes happened this week. Yes, the goats and the rabbits are doing better at family values than modern society right now. Trust me, you'll want to hear it. So, let's get into it. In October 2023, in Iceland, one of the world's most gender equal countries, tens of thousands of women and non binary people worked off both paid and unpaid work. This included school teachers, healthcare workers, and public services across the nation. Even the Prime Minister participated. The goal? To demand equal pay and an end to gender based violence.
The economy did not come to a stop and it continued as normal. The only memo I got was that HR departments were getting no complaints for the 24 hours that the women were on strike. And men were writing that they were really sorry women didn't get gender equality. But I heard one CEO said it was nice to finally get some shit done, end quote.
But you see, life kept moving. In fact, some data suggested men, when left alone, actually became more productive that day because men stepped in, businesses adapted, and operations still carried on. Think about that for a second. The headlines try to frame it as a grand demonstration of women's importance, but the actual story, he exposed the opposite. Society didn't burn, the machines didn't stop. If anything, the gears turned smoother. Now, let's flip the coin. Now, let's compare that with the male-dominated strikes in history. In 1970, US postal workers, almost entirely men, went on strike. Within just 8 days, the entire federal government was scrambling. Military troops had to be brought in just to sort mail. Not even the famous Iceland women's strike a few years later, in 1975, managed to leave a real dent in the economy. Can we talk about the 1980 UK steel strike led by male workers? The economy bled billions. Supply chains buckled. The effects were felt for years. 1970s UK miners' strike. Coal miners walked out. Within weeks, the nation was plunged into rolling darkness. The government literally had to impose a 3-day work week. The US railroad strikes of the 1980s. When rail workers stopped, entire cities were cut off from food, coal, and mail. The economy froze, and riots broke out. When men stop, the nation stops. Full stop. The contrast is stark. When men step out, society halts. When women step out, yes, it's disruptive, but systems bend and keep moving. That doesn't make women unimportant, but it shows you where the real structural backbone lies, and is the part nobody likes to talk about. It is not about who is more valuable, though that's part of it, but it's about understanding how deeply male labor holds up everything we depend on. In case you think that's harsh, remember this: no country, not even Iceland, can function without honoring both contributions. But when the chips are down, decades of social engineering mean men are in the structural foundation, and public culture still refuses to admit it. Crazy, right? And hey, if you've made it this far, you clearly get it. Smash the subscribe button so you don't miss the next one. Every time men stop, even for a moment, the cracks show. Industries like construction, transportation, manufacturing, finance, and tech, where men dominate, would grind to a halt. Supply chains would break within days. Food distribution, fuel transport, even garbage collection, all disrupted. Meanwhile, sectors with more women, education, healthcare, and retail would keep going, but they'll be drowning in the chaos left behind. Imagine emergency services, police, firefighters, EMS vanishing overnight. Utilities? Who maintains the power grid, the water systems, the gas lines? Transportation, subways, trains, airlines, everything crippled. Within weeks, the question would not be, where are the men? It would be, how long before society breaks? Within 30 days of men stepping back, GDP would nosedive, stock markets would spiral, businesses would not just run at half capacity, they would shut down completely. Household incomes would collapse overnight, families would feel the pinch within the first week, childcare and domestic responsibilities would fall entirely on women, many would burn out. By the way, before I keep hammering this home, quick farm update. Another one of my rabbits gave birth to 4 new kids this week. Again, tiny little things, but here's the funny part. Unlike modern families, they actually stick together. The male doesn't vanish. No court battles over custody. No child support drama. Just nature working the way it's supposed to. Makes you wonder, if rabbits figured out family, why can't we? And so we have seen it clearly. When men step back, the world doesn't just wobble, it crashes. Society depends on men more than it wants to admit. And until we start respecting that truth, the cracks will only get bigger. The truth is this: society is running on borrowed strength. Men are the backbone, the silent engine, the load bearers. And like any engine, if it is ignored, disrespected, or drained too long without care, one day it stops. And the day men stop, it's not slogans he'll be chanting, it's prayers. If you found this eye-opening, share it, because the more men wake up to their value, the less the world can pretend otherwise. And hey, if nothing else, you stuck around long enough to learn about my rabbits, which honestly puts you ahead of half the dating pool already. See you in my next video.